Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are so pleased to have you here on Legal Talk with John Mitchell. I am your host, John Mitchell. And boy, oh boy, do we have a treat for everybody out there today. I'm telling you, fasten your seatbelts, hold on tight, because we're going to have a fire hose of information for you to drink from today. I have with me, and I'm very privileged and very pleased to have with me today, attorney extraordinaire, Mr. Mario Varela, who has been an attorney here in Houston, Texas for many, many years, about around a decade now. And I know Mario personally. He's not only an excellent attorney, he's a really good guy. And I'm sure everybody out there is going to be so pleased that we had Mario on the show with us. So, Mario, welcome to Legal Talk.
Thank you, John. Nice to see you again.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Hey, so let's jump right in. We got some burning questions for you that everybody out there wants to know. And the first number one question we have for you now, if a person's going to go into business, which small business, we're always being told it's the lifeblood of our country, keeps society rolling along. And so, if people are going to form a business, what kind of considerations might they take into account when choosing their business entity type?
Um, well, there are several, but some of the most important would be the size of the operation and liability and taxes also.
Right. Okay. So the size and the liability protection and tax considerations. So as far as size, like let's say we've got a couple of different options that you like to choose. Mainly three, I guess. So you got your DBA, and then you got your corporation, and you got your LLC. So am I correct in assuming that the bigger the business, the more you might want to be likely leaning toward a corporation, because the shares in the corporation can be sold, and that's going to be probably much more conducive to a bigger business. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. Corporations, they have many more requirements, reporting requirements. So you really need to have the structure in your business to be able to meet those requirements. So again, there's a lot of things as far as taxation, as far as certain protocols that need to be met. So that's why it would really require a good size organization in order to have a corporation. As you go down the scale, like you mentioned, it could be a DBA. DBA is really not much. It's just a different name. Like my last name is Varela. If I don't like it, I could say have a different name. That's all it does. Really, there's no protection and no difference in taxation. The next step would be the partnership, when you work with another person and you start running business, and there's some liability for both members of the partnership. Of course, it could be a multi-member membership. By the way, I want to say that the most common form of business organization is a partnership, and the reason is that you don't need to have an agreement documented. As long as you're working with a an associate, another person, anything you do together that could legally make you a member of a partnership, and that could have some consequences. So that's why it's important, whatever you're doing, make sure you're documenting things and you're putting things in writing, and everyone knows who's responsible for what and what the responsibilities are. The next step after partnership would be limited liability company, which essentially is like put some restrictions or makes a separation between the entity, the legal entity, which is the business itself. It would just become a legal person, and the person itself. So if there's any lawsuit down the road, something goes wrong, then all the creditors could go after would be the business itself. You can always say, hey, that's the business, uh, and this is me. So we need to maintain things separate. If you found a lawsuit because something you were not satisfied with this, with the operation or with the business itself, something we didn't do it to your satisfaction, then you can go after the business only, not after my household. And then finally, we have the corporation, which is, again, there's a lot of protection for liability. I mean, we're not going to be filing lawsuits against individual stockholders, but there will be some taxation consequences also. Normally, it will be, it's called a double taxation, where the corporation has to report their profits, and the corporations are taxed on those profits. And then also the individual, when they get their dividends, they will also be taxed on those dividends. So there you have it, as the spectrum of legal organizations that we have here. And it depends, but those are some the most important considerations, I would say. The legal consequences or the legal responsibilities, the taxation, which starts getting more complex as we go up the road with towards the corporation, and of course the size of the company, that would also make a difference.
Right, right. Very, very important point, size of company, and so as we work our way up to the spectrum. So as I recall you saying, DBA, which is just you register your assumed name down at the county courthouse, and boom, you're in business. And then there's a partnership, which I understand. I think you don't need to register a general partnership with the state. Is that's accurate, right?
That is correct. I mean, it protects the members of the partnership, the partners, to have some sort of registration, so they can start documented what are the responsibilities of each partner. But again, officially, there's no requirements. Two people can get together, start discussing a project, an idea, and they just start together, go out and start offering their services and start working, and that can have some consequences. So best thing to do if you're going to go with partnership would be to make sure you have the operating agreement, partnership agreement, documented, to know who's going to be responsible for what and so on.
So as far as a LLC versus a corporation, then just to follow up and paint a little bit more detail into the picture. So LLC versus a corporation, my understanding is that the advantage could be of an LLC is the lack of so many corporate formalities, so that we don't get into issues like piercing the veil and stuff like that. So LLC might be a little bit more easy to get through with the formalities. But does an LLC, in your opinion or in your experience, have basically the same kind of protection as a corporation?
It could be. It depends on how the organization, the LLC, is structured. And now there are certain restrictions. For example, certain forms of businesses are only allowed to have certain type of LLCs. For example, I'm thinking about professional careers that have that require licenses, professional licenses, being an attorney, being a doctor, dentist, CPAs, that they can form PLLC, Professional Limited Liability Corporation. And there's some ownership restrictions and so on. So it can start getting complicated. But as far as the protection, yes, there's more. It could be the same between the LLC and the corporation. However, when there's a corporation, usually there's no one person face, that showing their face to the public, and in the case of an LLC, it's more common to associate the name of a person. Many LLCs have the name of a person. So because of that, sometimes there's confusions, and as far as who the business is or who the person is. But again, if things are well planned and those things are kept in mind, the protection should be about the same. There should be no liability to a person if things are well planned, either for an LLC or for a corporation.
Well, see, now that's very important, and that's why folks out there should go ahead and make sure that they get competent legal help. They get some competent professionals on their side when they're ready to go into business. if you could, we got like about 3 minutes left in the segment. So if you could, first, before we get out of here, talk about what basically, just in basic context, what type of, I guess, what should you do? What type of steps are involved in establishing a business entity in the state of Texas?
Well, first of all, and I'm speaking this from a business perspective, what we really recommend is a business plan to have some sort of idea or market study, look at resources, financing, expertise, and so on to see what to get into. Worst thing that we can do is just jump onto something because it looks like fun or looks attractive, and once we're there, we're stuck, and it's we start incurring losses, and it just goes downhill from there. So good business plan is always advisable, recommended, and but for companies that, or for individuals that already have that experience, it may be easier just to go ahead and continue with the process. The next step would be to select the company name. And because if we're gonna be registered that company with the state, they're gonna want to make sure that there's no other company that has the same name. That's important. So that would be the next step. After that would come selecting the type of business that they would like to run their organization as, whether it's sole proprietorship, whether it's LLC, limited liability company, or if it's a corporation. And after that, they will also be looking at regulations that affect and that is something I should have come during the business plan, but they should also be looking at the at regulations as far as licensing requirements, operating permits, and so on. Some businesses are regulated, so it's important that, of course, we're all working in compliance with all those licensing requirements. After that would come the registering the company with the state, also designating a agent for service process, which means essentially the person that in case of a lawsuit will be receiving notification. This is very important for the government, as you can imagine. Whenever there's a problem, they want to know who to get a hold of. And this is a requirement also, especially for non-domestic entities. That's entities that are not in the state or out of the or from out of the country, who the owners are from out of the country, out of the state. And after that, well, of course, it's always good to have a operating agreement that describes all the possible scenarios. What's going to happen if somebody leaves the organization? What's going to happen if who's going to be paying for the losses? Who's going to be paying or taking some of the profits? How much of the profits? Who's going to be making the decisions, and so on? So there's a lot of possible scenarios, things that will come up that should be anticipated and should be documented. Who's going to be doing what?
Right.
After that, many times the next step would be to open a bank account, and the banks normally ask for proof of ownership of the business, that the business has been registered with the state before they'll issue and they will open a business account. And after that, just start working. Essentially, that will be the main the first steps legally.
Perfect.
That would let a organization start their business.
Wonderful. Well, you see, there you have it, folks. That is Mr. Mario Varela, attorney expert in all things legal, and that's wonderful information. We really appreciate it. So one last thing, Mario, how would folks go about getting in touch with you if they need to do that?
Yes, our number is 713-684-3550. And we're located at 8554 Katy Freeway, Suite 340, Houston, Texas, 77024.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Mario. We really appreciate it. I'm sure the audience really appreciates all that good information. And with that, I will bid you adieu, fond farewell, and we will go ahead and see you next time. And thanks to the audience, and we will be right back after a quick commercial break.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.